Hello, I'm Aaron Susan. We're going to spend a little bit of time here talking about cough. It is a very common complaint that patients come to a clinic with, and it is a really important mechanism for protecting the airways and our lungs. We get rid of aspirated junk, some of which comes from us, so stuff from the back of our throat, including bacteria that can cause pneumonia. Some of it is stuff that we might inhale from whether it's pollution or food that accidentally gets down the wrong pipe. And it's really important for preventing infections. People who don't have a good cough actually are at higher risk for getting infections. But really what we're interested in right now is how does a cough work and how does that happen? So we're going to start, we're going to try to draw somebody. This is actually somebody who's looking to the side. We're going to give them glasses because I wear glasses. Here's their nose, which we're going to make big because my nose is reasonably big. And then that's their mouth, which is a little funny looking. And they have a neck. There it is. And then because we're going to talk about lungs, we're going to make their body huge so that we have plenty of room to put some very big lungs in there. So here we're going to get started on the lungs. And the lungs are connected to the upper airway by the bronchi. This is, because this is a person looking at us, this is the left side. There we go. And this is going to be the right side. And the lungs, this is important for later on, these main stem bronchi, they have a branching system, much like a tree. And they branch into smaller and smaller bronchi. They're actually very much like a tree because their math that describes the branching, which is fractal geometry, is the same as that which describes branching in trees. Which is sort of why sometimes you'll see pictures of lungs and it actually has a root-like sort of structure. So the airway goes up through the neck. There's a part of the airway that comes out into your nose. This is the palate right there. That's the hard palate at the top. And here's the part that goes to your mouth. And there's an important piece here. It's the vocal cords. And they're going to become pretty important. So we're going to cough here because it's a great way to figure out what's going on. So if we're all going to do this here. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Now there are a few things you notice when you cough. Maybe the first thing is you have to have a reason. And in this case, the reason was me. I told you to do it. But usually it's one of two things. It's either a chemical cause, right? Oops, chemical cause, or it's mechanical. And we can talk about that a little bit later. So you have to have a reason. And your first step, really, is you take a deep breath. And this is an important piece for a couple of reasons. One of which is that you have to get air into your lungs. And there are a couple of things that are going on. You have these big muscles just below the lungs. This is a diaphragm. It's an A right there. It's the diaphragm, and it contracts when you take a deep breath. And the muscles of the chest also cause your chest to expand. About 50% of the air movement, though, is due to your diaphragms, and you fill up your chest with air, your lungs with air, really. And you can see that really clearly when people are choking. They'll be taking these deep breaths and then trying to blow stuff out, which is what's happening in a cough. And if you paid attention to your cough, you took a deep breath, and then there's a little point where if you stop it, you'll make a squeak. So you take a deep breath and you cough and you make a little bit of a squeak, and what's happening there is that the vocal cords close. And you do that to increase the pressure in your chest. And we're going to just put a little, here's our little stop sign right here, because the vocal cords are going to close. There's just a little, they're just going to close off. And as that happens, you're also, your expiratory muscles are contracting. Now, you have them all over the place, but down here in your belly, you have abdominal muscles. They're going to contract. The muscles of your chest are going to contract, and all of that's going to increase the pressure, and it's going to cause the air to want to move up. It's going to come out of these little, all these little places, and it's going to try to come up here, and it's of course going to be stopped right there at the vocal cords. This causes the intrathoracic, or the chest pressure, to go up. So that's important. Right? You have an increase in thoracic pressure. Okay, so you've got your vocal cords closed, you're pushing air out as hard as you can, and then when the cough finally happens, number 4, the vocal cords open. And that then leads to a cough. So these open, now the air is, all of a sudden, the air is busting out, right? It's coming through, and nobody's going to stop it. And it'll actually come out, I made my brush too small. It comes out, it can actually come out at 50 miles per hour. Now there's a piece to this that is important to notice, and that is, as the pressure increases, here you got all this pressure coming in, that actually causes the bronchioles to get smaller. And as they do that, the air going through, there's all this air, and it has to come out, and you get a stream of fast air. Right? And I said it's about 50 miles an hour, or it can be 50 miles an hour. And that helps dislodge all these pieces, all the little junk and things like that that you might cough up. And figuring out what stuff you're coughing up is important to figuring out what's wrong with somebody, because they're going to cough up different things. But that's really, that's a foreshadowing of another story in another video.